hey, it is Monday. Welcome back. It is a brand new week. I don't know about you, but I had absolutely no interest in the royal wedding this weekend, so I was not watching that, although, to be honest, it was on awfully early in the morning here in the Chicago area. But I did spend a good amount of time playing games, so that was very, very cool. So I don't know how you may have spent your weekend, but there is something that I do know, and that is the Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, Jeff McEllear here with you once again. I am your host here at the Daily Dope, as well as happening to be the Grand Poobah of the GamingGang.com. So, brand new week. Today is Monday, May 21st, 2018. And should have a pretty big show. Okay, medium-sized show today. Because I am going to review Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons from Wizards of the Coast. Now, if you do follow the Daily Dope, you know I already took a pretty detailed look into the book on last Tuesday's show. So I am going to flip through. I'm not going to focus on so much of these specific interiors as I did in the can't really unbox a book, but a first look video. But I will cover what I like about it and who I feel the book is for. That'll come up in just a bit because we've got some news to discuss. But before I jump into that, I do want to point out there is chat available. This is a live stream, so if you happen to be watching live, and if you want to say hello or you have a question or comment, feel free, chime in. Chat is not on screen. It is a fantastic way to keep the trolls at bay, I must say. I'm a poet and didn't even know it. Alrighty, so just wanted to let you know that chat is available. And of course, when I'm doing the review of Mordenkainen's Tomb of Foes, if you have a question or you want me to kind of focus on something for a moment, feel free to ask. I will definitely respond. First up in the news today is a board game that's up on Kickstarter that really has my interest piqued because Free League Publishing and Paradox Interactive are going to be teaming up to bring Crusader Kings, the awesome PC game, to tabletop. And I've got the dope. Crusader Kings, the board game, is a grand strategy board game of rival kings and dynasties in medieval Europe, based on the acclaimed computer game Crusader Kings. As I had mentioned, my king, the time has come, your day is now. Are you ready to make your mark on history? Well, are you? Free League Publishing and Paradox Interactive are proud to present Crusader Kings, the board game, based on the acclaimed grand strategy computer game. In this game, 3 to 5 players lead the historical dynasties of medieval Europe to triumph or downfall. You are a Crusader king, striving for wealth and power across the continent, across generations. Reshape the history of medieval Europe in your own image. If only that dim-witted son of yours set to inherit the throne doesn't spoil your grand plans. Crusader Kings, the board game, captures the essence of the Crusader Kings experience in a physical tabletop format. This is a strategy game at heart, but with a special focus on characters, intrigue, and juicy medieval drama. It's a big, beautiful game centered on a map of medieval Europe, using cards for actions, characters and events, and dozens of well-crafted plastic miniatures to represent knights, armies, castles, and more. To win, you'll need to groom your family, build mighty castles, develop your dominion, be shrewd in the realm of diplomacy and intrigue, and use your vassals wisely to grow your wealth and military power. You must survive invasions, plots, plagues, crusades to the Holy Land, and marriage. Or at least have children or siblings standing by to take over the throne if your regent dies. Failure to raise a suitable heir can mean the end of your dynasty. Crusader Kings, the board game, boils down the unique strategy RPG combination of Crusader Kings to an intense tabletop experience of 2 to 3 hours. The game rests on 4 core pillars. Character focus. The game brings characters and dynasties to the forefront, using traits and events to develop the characters and the story. Grand strategy. Crusader Kings is a grand strategy game at heart, and so is the board game. To win, you will need to plan decades ahead and outwit your opponents. Emergent storytelling. Like the computer game, the board game has an event system, using cards, that interacts with the game mechanics to create unexpected and memorable story twists. And it's steeped in history. The board game is based on historical characters and events of the Middle Ages, letting you relive and change the course of actual history. Free League Publishing and Paradox Interactive do have a Kickstarter video. It's going to give you a much, much better idea of the game, so kick back and let's watch.
My king, the time has come. Your day is now. Are you ready to make your mark on history? Free League Publishing and Paradox Interactive are proud to present Crusader Kings, the board game, based on the acclaimed Grand Strategy computer game. In Crusader Kings, the board game, 3 to 5 players lead the historical dynasties of medieval Europe to triumph or downfall. You are a Crusader King, striving for wealth, political power, religious influence, and military might across the continent, across generations. Reshape the history of medieval Europe in your own image. The first step to victory is to groom your dynasty. Choose your spouse carefully, as her traits will have a lasting impact on your dynasty. So will the traits of the children that you will hopefully have together. Your traits will determine the chances of success for the many actions that you will need to take as king, so manage your family tree with the greatest care. As king, you have many means at your disposal. You can build mighty castles, develop your realm with new inventions, plot against your rivals, raise armies, and invade the lands of your enemies. All this will take its toll on your coffers, so be sure to tax your lands as often as you can. And, as a Crusader King, it is your holy duty to take part in the crusades to the Holy Land. To aid you in all of your endeavors, you have a trusted council of royal advisors, like me. For you must plan wisely and devise your strategy for the decades ahead with great forethought. When the time comes for military conquest, choose your battles wisely and stack the odds in your favor. With that and a little luck of the draw, you will surely triumph. Yet, always remember that there are limits to your power, even though you are a king. Whatever actions you take, there will be consequences, events beyond your control. Learn to expect the unexpected. One day, you will shuffle off this mortal coil, be it from a deadly blow on the battlefield or old age. Not even a king can defeat death, but you must make sure that your dynasty lives on when you are gone. Securing your throne with the right heir is the key to final victory. Crusader Kings, the board game, comes with 70 beautifully sculpted miniatures, 306 tokens, 289 cards, 10 dynasty boards, 5 family boards, and a large game board. Back it on Kickstarter now, and become the true Crusader King.
Crusader Kings, the board game, is for 3 to 5 players, ages 10 and up, and plays in around 2 to 3 hours. The project is currently over 300% funded, and you can secure a copy of the standard game for a $68 pledge, or the Royal Edition for a $93 pledge through June 19th, with an expected delivery date of November of this year. Plus, of course, there are also other stretch goals that have been unlocked so far. I believe the Royal Edition has more miniatures to it. I think that is one of the aspects of the Royal Edition that's different than the Standard Edition. So I have to say, I am a huge fan of Paradox Interactive games. They're historical games. I played tons of Hearts of Iron. Now they're on Hearts of Iron 4. I have played Crusader Kings 2 for quite a few years, as well as Europa Universalis, which is on the, I want to say it's 4th edition. Yeah, it's 4. And I love all of them, because I love how steeped in history they are, but different things can come up where you alter history. And Crusader Kings has a very, very heavy RPG feel to it, because you are effectively controlling one family, one dynasty, and you have, parents come and, I was going to say come and go, they, basically. But, yeah, it's a lot of fun, and you really, really create this wild story. And, of course, in Crusader Kings 2 for PC, there are all these different expansions that have come out as well. There's even one where you could have a devil-worshipping monarch. It's just crazy, crazy stuff. Very, very cool. I am pumped to see that Crusader Kings is going to get a tabletop game treatment. Supposedly, there are going to be other Paradox games on the horizon that Free League is going to work on, and I believe Hearts of Iron is one, as well as Europa Universalis. So very, very cool. I'm excited to maybe get a peek at this when it does come out later this year, because I do have to point out that Free League Publishing, most people are familiar with them from their role-playing games. This might be their first board game that they've put together. I'm not positive, but they are well known for such releases as Tales from the Loop, which we will be taking a in-depth look at very soon, as well as Mutant Year Zero, and is it Corvallis? Is that how it's pronounced? The science fiction RPG that they do? Anyway, I am actually going to be taking a look at all 3 of those in the very, very near future. Might have the physical books too, so that'll be cool. But I do have the PDFs, so I have been taking a peek. All right, so speaking of interesting looking games, there's an interesting looking fantasy game that's on the horizon. It's still a few months out, but it is from Barcelona-based Second Gate Games, and I've got the dope on Monsterlands. Monsterlands is a competitive dice placement game that combines resource management, worker placement, and fun combat. You will take on the role of the leader of a small clan of brave warriors, competing to win the crown of the Lands of the Discord. We're not talking about your Discord channel either. You will visit buildings within the Citadel, the last bastion against the monsters that have overrun the kingdom, and also travel to the outside, the areas surrounding the Citadel, where you will battle monsters and reclaim the lands for the Queen. At the end of the game, the crown is handed to the clan with the most victory points, which are gained by amassing glory, reputation, gold, and trophies from defeating monsters. The most important factor is glory. To gain it, you must leave the safety of the Citadel and undertake missions, defeat or capture monsters, and conquer lands. Your mercenaries provide you with dice, which you will use to take actions using a worker placement mechanic. In the Citadel, your dice allow you to improve your clan, acquiring hunting tools, shields, potions, venoms, mercenaries, and more. The timing of your dice placement and the type of dice you use affects both yourself and other players. In the outside, your dice become battle tools. You roll them in missions and battles to try and defeat monsters or reconquer the land. If you plan well, you will have many ways to manipulate your dice results and increase your chance of success. You cannot simply hope for lucky rolls to snatch the crown. You will need to carefully manage your resources and do some proper planning to be successful. Do you have what it takes to go for the crown? Monsterlands is for 1 to 4 players. Releasing at the same time will be a heavy weapons expansion, which adds a 5th player, as well as more monsters, I believe. The game is for ages 12 and up, plays in about 1 to 2 hours, and will carry an MSRP of about $70. Remember, this is a Spanish company, so exchange rates obviously will be changing between now and October. The heavy weapons expansion will carry an MSRP of approximately $34. Looks fun. Looks like this could be a pretty fun game. So, and the expansion is releasing in October as well. So you're going to have the core game as well as the expansion both hitting at the same time. Do have to point out, today is kind of heavy on the Magic the Gathering, well, I should say Wizards of the Coast news. Because speaking of October, Magic the Gathering has a brand new, I should say more than one expansion on the horizon. And the first is going to release in October, on October 5th, I should say. Let me grab a sip here. It's awfully dry again here in the Duct Tape Studios. Anyway, so the first release of the new expansion, and I think this first expansion is like the 78th or 79th expansion for Magic the Gathering. But regardless, I've got the dope. Everything has been building up to this. Nicole Bola's plans are taking shape, and heroes are converging on Ravnica to stop him, which means we're going back to the world of guilds as well. We'll be spending 3 sets on Ravnica as we gear up for the final showdown with Bolas himself. We've got a little way to go till we get there, but now you can start preparing yourself. Dig out that Izzet shirt, tune up that Golgari commander deck, stack up your Ozhao tokens, or gold, and get ready to go back to Ravnica. Guilds of Ravnica releases on October 5th, 2018. It will prominently feature the harmonious Selesnya. I know I'm going to mispronounce like all this stuff. The militant Boros, the life and death focused Golgari, the frazzled geniuses of the Izzet, and the mystery of the Dimir. Ravnica Allegiant ratchets up the drama and will release in January 2019 and will complete our travels through the guilds. Join the orderly Azorius White-Blue, the chaotic Rakdos Black-Red, the wild Gruul, maybe that's it, Gruul, Red-Green, the experimental Simic, Green-Blue, and the devious Orzhov White-Black, as we reach the penultimate moment of the Gatewatch's story. It wouldn't be a return to Ravnica without letting players play as their favorite guilds. Guild kits will feature a 60-card deck flavored after your favorite guild, plus guild swag like pins, stickers, and spin-down life counters. Play as any one of the guilds of Ravnica with the Guilds of Ravnica guild kits. Wow, plenty of guilds right there, which will release on November 2nd, 2018. Ravnica Allegiant guild kits will release in February of 2019. And you may have noticed we're spending a 3rd set on Ravnica as well, but we're not quite ready to talk about that yet. Just know that while the setting will be Ravnica, the focus will be on the culmination of the story and not the guilds. It's going to be a wild ride as we return to one of Magic's favorite planes, and with the long boiling war with Nicol Bolas reaches its crescendo. The first set, Guilds of Ravnica, once again hits streets on October 5th, followed by the Guilds of Ravnica guild kits on November 2nd. And the second set, Ravnica Allegiance, will emerge in January, followed by those guild kits in February. I do not have any sort of MSRP information on these just yet. I like Magic. I like Magic the Gathering. I don't get an opportunity to play it anywhere near as much as I once did. I've said before, Elliot Miller, my best friend over at voiceofe.com, he and I got in on it when it was in beta. So we got beta cards is how we started off in Magic. So anyway, I have to laugh because we would get all these cards and then it was like, yeah, we didn't like put together like a 50, 60 card deck, right? We would just have this big stack, like this huge deck, like goofballs. Anyway, yeah, we just played it for fun. We never got real intense into Magic. And we even played in a couple of tournaments way back in the day, back when Gen Con was in Milwaukee. Anyway, as I mentioned, we're pretty heavy on Wizards of the Coast today because there is a new class available for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, and I've got the dope. Introducing the Mistwalker, a new Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition base class by YouTube creator Taking 20. Looking for a new class to play? A highly mobile and cunning warrior, the Mistwalker is designed specifically to give you an exciting feel in and out of combat with just the right amount of options to be creative in your approach. The Mistwalker is an intelligence-based combatant that will breathe life into encounters in thrilling fashion. Designed by YouTube content creator Cody C. Lewis of Taking 20, the Mistwalker has been put through multiple phases of playtesting, both live on stream and with the help of WebDM, Nerdarchy, and Encounter Roleplay, and with the help of the Taking 20 patron community. I believe they mean Patreon community. Coupled with some incredible art by the talented 5th edition D&D artist Kim Van Duyn to bring us this final version. The Mistwalker is a complete D&D 5e class with 3 full archetypes called Convictions that will give players plenty of options when creating and playing their characters. The Conviction of the Blade, the Conviction of the Mind, and the Conviction of the Shroud. Each of these will give players and dungeon masters a distinct feel to help them create that one-of-a-kind experience. You can score the new Mistwalker class in PDF from DriveThruRPG for $3.49. And as I always mention, whenever I talk about anything available at DriveThruRPG, I always ask if you're swinging over there, please stop by thegaminggang.com first, click on one of our banners for the drive-thru sites, and that way if you make a purchase, we get a small portion of that purchase. And I swear, it all adds up. It really helps keep the website around. So, all right, so that is it for the news for today. Boy, I'm telling you, it is, it's very heavy on Wizards of the Coast stuff today, which is okay. I like Wizards. I have absolutely no issue whatsoever with Wizards of the Coast. I don't have issues with Paizo either. Just really never get anything to review from Paizo, which is okay. I mean, it's all right. I'll probably look to try and remedy that with the new edition of Pathfinder that's coming out. Because I have interviewed Eric Mona a couple of times. He knows me. Should still know me on sight. But, yeah, it's just never, I don't know, never really ironed that out all that much. But there's so much stuff that comes out for Pathfinder 2, so I can kind of understand that they may not want to be setting out review copies like everybody. So, anyway, I'm going to get into my review of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes in just a minute. I will also discuss how you will be able to win my limited edition copy of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, and it is in pristine condition. I know there was a problem with many of the limited editions coming out into stores, that there were scratches and scuffs and even warping of the covers, but mine is fine. Mine's perfect. I have taken a very hard look, so I will talk about how you'll be able to score yourself possibly my copy of the limited edition, and it's pretty easy. So what's cooking for this week? Now, I do want to point out next Monday is Memorial Day. There will not be an episode of the Daily Dope on Monday. I don't do episodes on major U.S. holidays, and I may actually go do a little bit of camping, and I've been asked to bring a bunch of games with. So, might be doing that over the weekend. I don't know. All depends on what the weather looks like. So, anyway, but on tomorrow's show, I am going to review the Day 1 adventures for Toward Eternity from Ulysses North America. So, that's going to be on tomorrow's show. Wednesday, I don't have any Wargame stuff to share for a Wargame Wednesday, which should change in the very, very near future, because I know there's a bunch of stuff coming out from GMT, including 2 games that I am really, really looking forward to checking out. One is Mark Herman's Fort Sumter, and the other is Cataclysm, which is kind of an alternative history World War II game, or it can go alt history. It doesn't necessarily have to play out like World War II does, so I'm looking forward to that. Some other stuff is supposed to be shipping the end of the month, too. But on Wednesday's show, I will be reviewing Renegade from Victory Point Games. Thursday, I will have some sort of an RPG. I'm not sure what I might do. I might do one of the Dark Eye books. All depends if some of the Free League stuff shows up. Might take a first look at some of those, like Tales from the Loop, which has been out for a bit, but looks awesome. I love the artwork. So, anyway, so got that. And I have, since we're really focused on role-playing games today, I did want to talk about how, real quick, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it. If you follow the show, you know a good buddy of mine, actually one of my best pals, who I hadn't seen in like 22 years, because he lives out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He's out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He was one of the members of my original gaming gang, right? So it was Elliot Miller, Paul Miller, my buddy Ed Ruprecht, and some other guys from high school, you know. But after high school, the 4 of us still played a bunch of stuff, and all stayed in touch over the years, everything else. Of course, Elliot and I have been best friends for 37 years now. So yes, so yeah, obviously we've stayed in touch. So anyway, so my buddy Ed was in a couple weeks ago. He was in town for a couple of days, so I drove into the city, hung out with him, and we were talking about the years of gaming and things like that. How much he'd like, man, I'd really love to get into a game, but obviously, you know, he doesn't know anybody out in Albuquerque really who he thinks would be into role-playing games. So I had been thinking about, well, you know, there's all these various like tabletop simulators out there that are supposed to be pretty cool. So what if I did maybe D&D or something like, or Call of Cthulhu, maybe. Probably more apt to go D&D or Pathfinder, but I am not a big crunchy rules guy anymore. I am more about story and excitement and, you know, building up, you know, big over-the-top moments, things like that, when I'm doing fantasy. Not necessarily when I'm doing a horror role game like Call of Cthulhu, which I've run for decades. So anyway, so I have reached out to Fantasy Grounds because I have heard really good things about Fantasy Grounds, and see if they might like me to provide some coverage for them and actually utilize Fantasy Grounds in our game. Which would feature Elliot and Ed and probably my nephew Cameron. So, and we would do it all remote. A couple hours. Who knows? I don't know. So I just wanted to point that out. That might be doing a little of that. I got to admit, though, I am really surprised, and I'm not trying to make fun of people. I was checking out YouTube because I wanted to look at some stuff for Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds, kind of get an idea how do they work, and you know, how do people approach doing this, you know, role playing remotely, right? Because I've always done it around a table, you know. That's basically how I've done. Well, no, I take that back. I have actually done it well, like walking around or driving, things like that. But the people have always been there, not, you know, everybody's chiming in through Skype or Discord or something like that. So anyway, so I was taking a look at you know, some of these folks who've posted videos of their games, their campaigns, and you know, Pathfinder campaigns or D&D adventures, right? Published adventures. And I gotta say, with Fantasy Grounds, looks very cool. Looks very, very cool. Very, very intuitive. Looks like it's fairly easy to get into. But the one thing that I was struck by was how bad many of these game masters are out there. And I was like, wow, is this really how people run their games? Because I gotta be honest, it's been years and years and years since I sat in on someone else running a game. And like I said, I'm not trying to pick on anybody. I'm not gonna like point out somebody's channel or anything like that. But I was like, wow, the game masters are awfully no, very little creativity. Now, granted, they're running a published adventure, but I would think that would even give you more opportunity to be like, hey, yeah, I know all of what's supposed to be going on here. I can really, you know, ratchet things up and have a good time with this. But, you know, it'd be, I was watching one and it's like a battle between, you know, the characters and some goblins, and the GM's like, goblin lunges at so-and-so. Well, of course, then there goes the virtual die, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, all right, this goblin lunges at so-and-so. There's the die again. I was like, wow, that is, so, oh, hits you, 2 points damage. I was like, wow, this is super, super boring. But then on the flip side, I noticed a lot of the players that were in these videos, I'm telling you, they wouldn't be allowed at my table. Just a lot of screwing around and goofing off, and, you know, I could see where the GM, DM, whatever you want to consider him, would be like, wow, you know, I'm kind of tuning out myself because you guys are just kind of off doing your own thing. And I kind of laughed because I thought, wow, and you guys post these videos up on your channel? Because it's certainly no great advertisement for Pathfinder, D&D, or your group. So I don't know. So that's why I kind of thought, well, if I do this, I might actually share some video. I'm not going to sit there and be like, here's our 50-part campaign adventure. Because I am much more descriptive. I am much more, you know, like in a battle. And I think when I was running some of the adventure for my nephew Cameron and his friends, as well as Elliot, my kind of kit bash fantasy game, they were like, whoa, you know, because it wasn't like, oh wow, boom, you know, you take 3 points of damage, or you know, you hit that hobgoblin for 6 points of damage. No, I was like descriptive. I'm like, you know, you smacking it, your mace smashes into his shoulder and you see blood, you know. Granted, I wasn't going over the top gore or anything like that, but I, you know, rather than hit 4 points damage, next. I mean, to me, that's like, it's kind of boring. Anyway, so enough of that. But stay tuned. I don't know. I'll find out. Maybe Fantasy Grounds will say, Game and Gang, we don't care about you. Who knows? I have no idea. All right, so as I had pointed out before, I am going to be reviewing Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. It does clock in at 256 pages and carries an MSRP of $49.95. Of course, there are 2 covers available. There is the standard cover as well as the limited edition cover. I have to be honest, I am not positive if the standard edition is actually out in stores, and I'll tell you why. Because the 18th was the release date for the limited edition Tome of Foes, and then the standard and the limited edition was only coming out in like the like Wizards of the Coast like core stores, you know, stores that have like this great relationship with Wizards of the Coast, and they do, you know, Adventurers League and stuff like that. Whereas the standard edition of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes is supposed to hit retail on the 29th. It is possible that the standard edition is being sold because of the problem that arose with the limited edition books that were sent to retailers. Now, not every book was affected, but as I mentioned prior when I was talking about the giveaway a little bit, there are many of the limited edition covers that have either scratches or scuffs or even warped. So those were being returned to Wizards of the Coast, and the Wizards was going to get their printer on getting, you know, new editions out, which will probably take some time. Anyway, so Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, the standard edition, carries an MSRP of $49.95. The limited edition does carry an MSRP of $49.95 as well, but because it's a limited edition, most stores usually mark it up. So you may see it anywhere from $70 to $90. That's about what I've seen it going on the secondary market right now. I wonder if that's going to jump up or not. Let's switch over to the other camera. Anyway, I'm not sure if that's going to jump up as far as like eBay's secondary market, because there are so few of the limited edition copies out there right now that are not damaged, or if people will be like, well, you know, I don't want to buy this on eBay because what if it is a damaged limited edition? So be careful. Be careful if you decide you want to get that limited edition book on the secondary market, because you could get stuck with one that's not pristine. You never know. So as I mentioned before, we've got these two here. I will point out that the fine folks at Wizards of the Coast were kind enough to provide me with both editions of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. So very cool. So if you had watched last Tuesday's show, let me move this. Yeah, we're going to move it over here because I don't want my noggin blocking out a lot of the book as we kind of go through this a bit. As I pointed out on Tuesday's show, when I went through page by page, pretty much, just to give a first look at this book, it is 256 pages. It is really, okay, this is my opinion. I believe this book is really aimed at dungeon masters, not necessarily players. Not saying that if you're a player that you don't want to pick this up. I'm sure most people are into D&D, want to pick up every single copy of everything that gets released from Wizards of the Coast, as well as third-party companies out there as well. Most of this is really devoted towards the Dungeon Master. Not all of it. I will talk a little bit about what is aimed at both the player and the DM. I'm going to pop on my reading specs just in case. And I'm going to grab a quick sip here. So a good deal of this book is devoted to a bestiary, which is cool. There are lots and lots of monsters included. So we've got index of monster stat blocks, as you can see right here. That is a big chunk. The rest of the book is really more lore, and it's about devils and demons. It's about elves and drow. It's about halflings and gnomes. So just kind of flip through real quick. As far as the lore goes, the greatest page count is devoted from me paging through this, reading through. I gotta be honest, I didn't necessarily write down exactly how many pages, but the demons and devils portion of this book seemed to me like that was like the main focus of the lore. That's the biggest lore section of Tome of Foes. So, but I'm going to be the first to admit that I am a huge fan in any role-playing game of background, lore, setting information, things like that. I know there are plenty of game masters out there, dungeon masters out there. They don't really care that much about the background of the setting or the races or the history of that, the lands and then, things like that. A lot of people consider it kind of fluff. I do. I dig that because I am not a game master who will run like a prepared adventure straight out of the book. I don't run my rules. Like for an example, I said I've run Call of Cthulhu for decades. I do not run core Call of Cthulhu. I do not run And in some ways, in like video games, we would call vanilla, the vanilla edition, right? The right out of the box edition. That is not how I run my Call of Cthulhu. I tweak some things that I like, and added over the years. And there's some stuff, even with the latest edition, that it's kind of like, eh. So I toss that out, replace it with something of my own concoction. But as I mentioned, I am not a super crunchy rules person. I am story. I drive the story. Surprise people. I do voices and things like that of different NPCs. So I'm one of those kind of game masters. All right. So anyway, popping along through here. Another thing you'll notice, first of all, I really love the artwork in this book. I really, really dig the artwork, and you're not overwhelmed by the artwork. I was very, very pleased, and I've seen that Wizards of the Coast is kind of going in this direction where they are not doing as much full-page artwork or two-page splashes. I think there's one splash, if I remember correctly, that's in here. So that you are getting a lot of gaming content. Now, I can't say for certain that every single Wizards of the Coast book is like that. Of course, as soon as I mention that, we get a lot of art on this. So, but I know one of the complaints that people will have with a variety of different RPG products, and I'm not just talking Wizards of the Coast, I'm talking to all different companies, is when there's just so much artwork, even if the artwork is cool, that you're really, ton of artwork, a bunch of fluff, very little gaming material in it. This book itself has a lot of lore, as I mentioned. The greatest portion of this book is the bestiary, but it does have a lot of lore. Not necessarily so much as far as actual, mechanics, game charts, things like that. There are charts throughout things, don't get me wrong, but it is not like just over it. It's not like Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Xanathar's Guide to Everything was more about various different optional rules that you could include into your game. This is not. This is more about background lore of various conflicts or differences with different races, as well as bringing a load of monsters and quite a lot of higher challenge level monsters too, which is pretty cool, which I liked to see. All right, so just kind of paging on through again. One thing to point out as far as the artwork that I like is, and this is just a personal preference. I am not knocking Pathfinder. I personally am not a fan of the Pathfinder artwork. To me, the Pathfinder artwork is a little too cartoonish. It's a little too influenced by anime and manga, or manga. In my opinion, the characters just seem to be too angular, like faces and things like that. There's not a lot of softness to the features. I like the Pathfinder adventures, and I think Pathfinder's pretty cool in that. I'm really interested to see what they're going to be doing with their new edition, their playtest. And I will definitely be taking a look at that. But I just don't dig the artwork. I really like the more realistic style of artwork, more artistic look to the artwork in Wizards of Coast game books. Now, that's not to say that earlier on, when 5th edition first came out, they did have kind of more cartoonish and kind of washed out looking artwork. Still wasn't as, angular and kind of like real sharp edges to everything like Pathfinder does, but it was kind of almost like they decided they were going with kind of a different palette almost, where things looked a little washed out. But I can happily say that we are seeing most of the D&D products coming out with some really, really good artwork. Very, very cool artwork. All right, so anyway, so we had the demons and devils, we've got the drow and the elves, we got the dwarves and the... I thought it's pronounced like Dwargar, something like that. So we've got that. And once again, this is all lore info. This is all background info. You're not really... this is the stuff where players could delve into this as well. Because especially if they're playing one of these races, a character from one of these races, obviously it gives them much more background to draw from for their own character backgrounds. So, so pretty cool. I see, but then again, like I said, I like this kind of stuff. I really dig this kind of stuff. And one of the reasons too is when I'm running a game, and like I said, it doesn't matter if it's something I've concocted myself or if it's a pre-published adventure that I've kind of deconstructed and put back together. I know I'm lucky. My memory is better than probably a lot of people's out there, even at my age now. My memory is still pretty darn good. So a lot of times I can draw from something that I remember reading about in a book, in a supplement, and so on and so forth. Just kind of give more, like, flesh out, give more flavor to the adventure, to the session. So, but then again, like I said, I'm one of these game masters who I like to kind of describe the action. It's not just, oh, okay, so you walk over here and you pull this switch and okay, this happens. No, I like to kind of flesh it out. But then again, I've pointed out many, many times before that a great way for dungeon masters or game masters to really get a better feel for how to tell a story is to listen to old-time radio shows, where the only way you could tell the story was through sound. You had to, you had to use your imagination. So I guess that's probably why I'm kind of a different sort of game master, is because I have a long-time love for old-time radio shows and have listened to them for decades. All right, so then we got the Gith and their endless war. Like I said, I like the artwork. I like the layout. I like reading all about the different races. You can have like Gith characters, so it gives you some tables for that. Then we got the halflings and gnomes, and I thought this was pretty interesting, seeing that halflings are more steadfast. They're usually good. Very rarely do you run across like evil halflings. Of course, yeah, okay. If your character's going to be an evil halfling, go ahead, knock yourself out. You will see NPCs where it's evil halflings, but for the most part, the race is very stoic, very good. Whereas the gnomes tend to be a little bit more mischievous, a bit more outside the box in their approach to life, as opposed to the halflings. Alright, so this the halfling and gnome section is also I think that's about, it might be the second longest outside of the devils and demons and devils. And then again, maybe the elf drow section is a little bit longer. Then we've got the bestiary, which there are some really cool monsters that are in here. I will say there is about maybe 15-16 pages in this book that seem to be lifted directly from Out of the Abyss. I mean, even down to the artwork, it's been lifted out. Now, I can't tell you if there's other sections in here that that have also been found in other previous 5th edition releases, because I don't recall it, but it's possible page here, page there, some artworks recycled, but it did kind of stick out where it's like, whoa, wait a second. I've seen these guys before in Out of the Abyss, so take that for what it's worth. I mean, it is something that I'm dinging the book in my final score for, not hugely, but... So we've got these clockworks. The clockworks are pretty cool here. Deathlock, I joked before, it's like, what? That doesn't look like Marvel's Deathlock character. What's going on with that? Deathlock Mastermind. So, one thing I also will point out is that a lot of these monsters are pretty gross, pretty horrific monsters, which is cool. I like that. I like that fact, especially these demons. The various different demons. There we go. There's the center spread artwork. And like I said, I believe that's the only one that we've got in this book. I don't remember anything else. Then we got the Demon Lords. Like I said, this is where like the demons and devils is where I notice, hey, you know, that artwork, that portion even of like description, stuff like that, stat black is all directly from Out of the Abyss. Now, if you don't own Out of the Abyss, I guess it's not that big a deal, right? So, but if you do own Out of the Abyss, just know some of that has been recycled in this book. All right, so we'll just kind of zoom through this a little bit more. So we got these are the different devils. And of course, back in the day, when TSR still owned Dungeons and Dragons, there was that time where it was like, oh, no, we can't call demons devils. No, we can't. Oh, God, no, we can't have that. It's sort of like, okay, you're overreacting, folks. Okay, so as I had mentioned before, a great deal of this book is devoted to the demons and the devils. So if that is not your sort of bag of tricks, you might consider not necessarily putting Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes real high up on your needs list. But we do have quite a bit of other stuff. I love the Sacred Statue. I just love this. Where's artwork earlier? Oh, maybe it's further on. Where it's the original player's handbook, where, you know, they're prying the gem out. Well, there he is. There's the Sacred Statue. Some of the different elves. Got some different elementals. Oh, here we go. We got the GIF, which I swear to God, when I was paging through this, I said, "What is that? Like a rhino?" No, it's hippo. Hippo people. But from one of the other planes. You know, for some reason, I think these are from Spelljammer. Is it Spelljammer? Is that? Yeah, it is Spelljammer. Gosh, there's so many like science fiction roleplay games. I'm like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Yeah, it was Spelljammer. That was like the D&D. So I could swear these guys are from that. I might be wrong. I might be way off base, but I could swear I thought they were one of the races. Okay, so just kind of flipping through. Like I said, some really cool monsters. There are a lot of monsters in here, so this does make for like a compendium, like an add-on to the Monster Manual as well as Volo's. In fact, I could have swore, just looking through here, and I didn't do a count, so I don't know, because I don't have the physical copy of Volo's Guide to Monsters. But I could have swore that there's actually more monsters in this book than in Volo's. But if that's not the case, I'm sure somebody out there will correct me. So, of course, one of the other things I always like in a bestiary is when pretty much every monster you're going to get some artwork. One thing that I hate is when you've got, especially like a fantasy game, right? Where these are like fantasy creatures and I don't know, what the hell is it going to look like? Oh, thank goodness there's a picture. I have seen some, in fact, I want to say the Dark Eye, which is pretty interesting. I did review that last week. Oh yeah, there's the other splash. There's no. Yeah, that is a splash. There's 2 splashes. I thought there was only 1. Anyway, I was going to say the Dark Eye, which is pretty interesting. I reviewed it last week. The bestiary in the core book, there's hardly anything, hardly any creatures in it. And then not all of them had pictures, and it was sort of like, okay, well, great. So how am I supposed to figure out what that thing looks like so I can describe it to the players if I'm running the game? That doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. Okay, so just finishing up here. Here we go. Here's some more of these pretty creepy, the wretched. Smile. You're on candid camera. All right. And then once we have the last few creatures here in the bestiary, then we're going to have some charts to finish off the book. I thought it was kind of cool too. There's some different new trolls, or at least they're new trolls to me. Because I'm the first to admit that I went from like advanced Dungeons and Dragons to not really looking at any D&D stuff for years. Well, decades, I guess we would say. I mean, I would see stuff here and there. And then when 5th edition came out, then I kind of took the dive back in. Because I really like what Wizards of the Coast has done with the 5th edition rules. Now, granted, as I've said before, I don't believe there's any perfect role-playing game system. Even if I created a system, it's sure not going to be perfect. But there is so much that Wizards of the Coast got right compared to what kind of, you might be like, eh. Now, granted, I will point out that my players were never super, like, min-maxer types, or they wouldn't sit there and, like, study everything and be like, ooh, how do I take advantage of this glitch in the rules or things like that? I never played with people like that. So I, of course, know that there are some aspects of D&D, some spells that are overpowered for the level or could actually kind of break the whole game experience and stuff like that. But as I said, I think Wizards of the Coast has done a phenomenal job with 5th edition D&D. That's why, as I mentioned, I am looking to maybe run D&D through Fantasy Grounds for Elliot and my buddy Ed, as well as my nephew Cameron. If I didn't think it was a decent system, I wouldn't even touch it as far as doing a virtual tabletop. All right, so then we got the appendix, and then we've got some various different charts over here, which are talking about the challenge ratings, different environments as well. So, and that is the 256 pages of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. So, what is my verdict as far as the new supplement? I like it. I like it a lot, but okay, so this is how we're going to have to explain it. My score may not necessarily reflect the value that you would put on this supplement. Just being very, very honest, everybody approaches dungeon mastering, game mastering differently. Everybody's got their own kind of thing that they dig, right? Or approach that they like to take. So, as I had already pointed out, as for a player, you can pick up Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes if you're really interested in like the gnomes, halflings, drow, things like that. Yeah, if you want to get more information about the lore of these races, a little more info about the demons versus devils, the elves versus the drow. Yeah. Is it mandatory? Do you need to have this information? Absolutely not. No supplement for a role-playing game is ever mandatory. Even with 5th edition D&D, all you really need is, well, you could get the free basic rules that have been available for a while, just no artwork, and not everything's covered in it. There's just some core classes in it. But, really, Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual, you're good to go. Honestly, one of the reasons why many role-playing companies, now I'm not talking about Wizards of the Coast, I'm saying, many role-playing game companies that don't do the sales numbers as, say, Paizo or Pathfinder, don't have huge profit margins a lot of times with role-playing games, because the reality is all you need is a core rule book, and if you got a great imagination, man, you're gone. You never need to buy anything else again. But most of us aren't that clever. Plus, a lot of us like to pick up adventures and supplements, and just even if they're not perfect, we kind of bash them around how we like to run stuff. So anyway, I don't find as a player that Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes is mandatory. It's not a must-have. As a game master, it sort of falls into that category as well. If you don't really have a huge interest in the demons and the devils, or bringing in some higher challenge level monsters and foes for your players to come up against, because some folks like playing, lower level campaigns and just kind of continuing on, making it really tough to level up, and just kind of keeping things at a particular kind of pace. Or there are other folks out there who, they just, do the usual level 1 through 10 through an adventure. And once that adventure's over, it's like, okay, well, let's roll up new characters, get some new characters for the next adventure that I'm going to run that came out from Wizards of the Coast. And that's fine. It's great. That's how you like to approach it. That's cool. Some people like to enjoy playing with a character in a role-playing game for a certain amount of time. And then they're like, okay, I've had enough of that. Let's get a new person here. Let's create a new character. Well, I've known others who, they want to have the same character in the role-playing game for decades. So that's okay. Everybody's got their thing. So once again, if you're not into getting, all these, because about half of the monsters that are included in the bestiary are higher challenge level monsters. So, which personally I thought was cool, because I think the game needs that. Some folks may not be like all that keen on that, so, which is fine, which is cool. So once again, I don't see it being like a must-have for dungeon masters either. But if you're the kind of person like myself who likes the lore, who likes, sometimes kind of fluff, whatever, who likes the background of a system, then you really should be picking up Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. It's got a lot of cool background. It's got a lot of cool detail. It's got a lot of stuff that can flesh out your understanding of the different races. I think a lot of the monsters are super cool. They're very unique. So I love that aspect. As I mentioned before, really dig the art. I mean, there are some people out there who pick up D&D books simply because they like the art. They don't even care about the game itself. They just want the artwork. I can simply understand that as well. Really, the only knock I have on the book is that there is that recycled section from Out of the Abyss. As I mentioned before, I'm not positive if there's other stuff that is kind of being recycled in the book, page here, page there. But from what I saw, I think it's about 14, 15 pages, somewhere around there. A lot of the artwork, too, has been lifted straight from Out of the Abyss. A little bit disappointing if you already own Out of the Abyss. If you don't, doesn't matter then. Big deal. So it was recycled from someplace else. You don't have it, so it's all good. So in the end, when I give a score to Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes on a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 9 out of 10. I think it is that good. I think it is excellent. Very well produced as well. Like the artwork. I dig the kind of stuff that's in this. Some folks may not necessarily agree. They may not find this a must-have, and I certainly understand that, completely get that. But I think it's an excellent book. I think it's a very, very nice job. Anyway, once again, as I pointed out, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes is 256 pages, and both editions, both the regular, or I should say maybe standard edition and limited edition, carry MSRPs of $49.95. So as I had mentioned, to stick around, because I was going to tell you how you can score my copy of the limited edition of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. Two parts to this giveaway. Number one, you got to be a YouTube subscriber. So you need to be a YouTube subscriber. That's pretty easy. I must reach 1,010 subscribers by next Monday. So next Monday is the 28th of May, because that's when I was going to do the giveaway. because the standard edition was supposed to come out 29th. Like I said, I'm not sure if the standard edition got released in stores because of that mess up with the limited edition or not. I'm hearing different things through the winds, and I'm not sure who to believe. So anyway, so I have to have 1,010 subscribers by the end of the day on March 28th, which is a week from today. So I am 39 subscribers away from hitting that mark. Anyway, because if I don't hit it, I'm not giving it away. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. I know, and people are like, 1,010? Isn't that kind of strange? Now, there's a method to my madness. I'll tell you after the fact. Anyway, the other part of it is, all you got to do is comment on one of the Daily Dope videos. That's it. Any video from last week, the 15th, through the 28th, all you got to do is leave a comment. Please not make it a rude or nasty comment, because I'm not going to be like incented to include you in a giveaway for what's effectively probably going to carry an MSRP of 70 to 90 bucks in most places. So, at least keep it like normal, respectful, whatever. But that's it. So that's all you got to do. Be a subscriber. I've got to be at 1,010 subscribers, and you simply just have to leave some sort of a comment about something on one of the shows from the 15th through the 28th. So plenty of wiggle room there. All right, so that is it for today's show. As I mentioned, on tomorrow's show, I will be reviewing the Day 1 adventures from Torg Eternity, provided by my friends over at Ulysses North America. So if you want to check that out, if you're interested in Torg Eternity, I did review the core book a couple of weeks back. And I do want to mention that as we approach Free RPG Day, I'm going to have a lot more RPG coverage, and I'm also going to talk about some of the free RPGs, the books, the quick starts, things like that are going to be available that you're going to want to keep an eye out for. In fact, I'm going to provide the top 5 that you're going to want to watch for, and you might want to get to your friendly local gaming store early to snag a copy of. All right, so when you're not watching the Daily Dope, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. Well, by now you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. I'll be back tomorrow. And until then, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.